Hello! So it's coming to that time of year where the summer is about to start and maybe you're looking for a summer job or a summer internship, and a lot of us Peloton pals I know are graduating from college now, so a lot of us are looking for grad school or different programs or real jobs or maybe internships to start ourselves up. So I thought that in the spirit of the school year coming to an end, that I would talk about the horrible waiting time that is between after you send in your applications and then you have to wait until you get a response. So I'm trying to address that weird limbo period between your frolicking youth and your possibly sad and dreary future if none of this application stuff works out for you. So I've devised a strategy that I have divided into 4 parts. Alright, so step 1 is spoil yourself. Woo! So you just finished applications. I personally think that you should do something important for yourself. So you could go out and get a fancy dinner with your friends, or you could go eat ice cream, or you could go to a movie, or buy that Blu-ray or pair of shoes or kitchen appliance that you really wanted for a really long time. Because if you never spoil yourself until you succeed, you'll probably lead a really sad life. You should always celebrate the smaller victories. So even just going through that week process or that month process or the couple day process in some cases, where every day you were looking at your cover letter and you were looking at your resume and you were checking for punctuation and you were sending it to different people and asking for feedback. I think that is a really long and difficult process, and once you finish that process, to just calm yourself down and get ready for that waiting, which can in some cases be a lot more painful than the actual doing of the application. I think that you should reward yourself for that by doing something nice. So I personally, when I reward myself, I eat things, and I already did that. So moving on to step 2. Some applications have things that are like, check the status of your application. Don't do that. In my experience, when I've tried to look at those checking of the application status things, it never really is that specific about where the application is. So even if it does kind of update, it's not very helpful. And if you know that kind of thing exists for what you applied for, then all you're going to end up doing is constantly updating the page and refreshing everything until you see something change. And that's really not good, because you're just going to get caught into a vicious cycle. And then the hours will just extend and the waiting time will feel like a lot longer. So don't bookmark that page. Don't remember the URL. Don't even check to see if your application specifically has that option. Just turn in your application and then just totally turn away from it. So the point is, step 2 is that don't obsessively check the website to see the status of your application. That's not going to help. It's just going to stress you out more. Okay, step 3, now we go on to something productive. So step 3 is very important. It's all about doing new projects. So during the waiting game, it's really important to stay busy so that you aren't thinking about your future and, oh, what if I don't get in? Oh, what if they call me on the interview and I don't know how to answer this question? You shouldn't be stressing out about things like that. So I assume that most of the people who are watching this video are students. So you always have school, right, to keep you distracted. So maybe you're studying for midterms, which is a really stressful process, but you're studying and studying, you're in the library, and then an hour before your midterm you think, wow, I'm so unprepared, I feel like I haven't studied that much, this week just went by so quickly, where did the time go? That is actually a good thing, because while you could have been in your room constantly updating the page to see the status of your application, and that week would have seemed like an entire year because nothing happened, you were studying instead for your midterms, and now that week just went by really quickly. Imagine if you had a midterm every week until the time that you would get a response. That time would go really quickly, and you would know really quickly. But then there's things like you go home, and usually when you went home, you would work on your application. Well, there's no application anymore, so what do you do? I think it's really important in that time to do projects that you didn't have time for before. So maybe you really wanted to read this book. Well, now is the time. Or maybe you wanted to cook more. So now you can cook more, you can learn new recipes, you can go outside and look at nature, you can ride your bike around, you can do spring cleaning and organizing. Just any kind of new productive project that you kind of always wanted to do. For example, if you noticed, I actually have a new background now. And the reason that this background came into being was because over my spring break, I repainted my room, I scraped all of this extra stuff that people had left behind before, I unscrewed old screws in the wall, I did a lot of stuff, and I repainted it, I redecorated my walls, and I cleaned and vacuumed, and now my room is really clean. I'm really happy, and it made me happy because I felt like I was being productive, and it kind of gave me a sense of newness and progression that I wouldn't have gotten if I had just done nothing over spring break. So I think having that kind of project to distract yourself or think about is important. And also, if you're accomplishing projects and meeting goals, then also that feeling of progression is really important, because the waiting time is all about stagnation, right? You don't know what's going to happen. There's nothing else that you can really do to change the outcome. So if you're doing new projects within that stagnant time period, then not only does it help make time go faster, but it feels like you're improving. So that kind of segues into the last step, which is step 4, and it's kind of related. It's basically keep doing whatever you were doing before you sent in your application. So for example, if you apply to graduate school for medical school or something, and you used to volunteer in hospitals, well, once you send in your application, you're not going to want to stop volunteering in hospitals, right? Just because, oh, well, I already sent in my application. There's no point to keep doing this now. Or maybe if you were a creative writer and you submitted to some magazine to have your short story featured, you wouldn't want to stop constantly writing after that, right? Just to take a break or something. I don't think that you should do that. And the point of that is to kind of keep up one sense of normalcy and kind of a sense of continuity between the time before you turn in your application and the time that you get your answer. Because step 3 and step 4 are really about not only shortening the wait time, but also about preparing you for the eventual response. So in the end, if it comes to the unfortunate circumstance where you actually get denied from your internship or your job or your program, then the kind of feeling that you would want to have is, well, that's not so bad because I spent all of this time waiting, doing new projects and improving and progressing. And I've also been doing this old thing, this volunteering at my hospital or constantly writing or making videos on YouTube. I've been doing that the entire time and I'm still doing it now. So just because I was denied from this program doesn't change me. And it doesn't make me seem like I'm a totally different person, I'm a failure now or something like that. So that's it. That's my 4-step process. So 1 is spoil yourself, reward yourself for turning in your application. 2, don't obsess over the status of your application. Maybe you should follow up on an application, not for everyone though. Maybe you should make sure that your phone is always on full blast when you're not in class or something so you can get phone calls. Maybe make sure that your spam on your email is okay. Like, set all of those things up, but don't constantly be checking because that's just going to stress you out. 3rd thing is do new and exciting projects that you like. And the 4th thing is try to keep a sense of continuity. Keep doing what you were doing before you sent in your application and kind of keep it carrying on through until the very end of that process. So the main point with dealing with it is just keep yourself busy, because the busier you are, then the shorter the time is going to be, and everyone wants to know as soon as possible what is going to happen in their immediate future. So I hope that everyone is coping well with this strange limbo time of not knowing what's going to happen once you enter real adulthood. And as a part of following my own advice in trying to keep things consistent, I am going to try again to make videos regularly on Mondays. And since I'm trying, Caroline, you should try too, because that would be really cool. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you guys next week, and I'll see you later.